YouTube intro out of the way, and we can really get going on this. Awesome. Me. Hey everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd. Hope you're doing well. And today, an exclusive conversation on the threshold of the release of the fourth chapter of their new record, Once Twice Melody. We have Dream Pop Goats on the stream. Alex Scally and Victoria Legrand, aka Beach House. We're going to be talking about the new record and more. Anything else that comes up in the conversation too. First off, how are you guys doing? Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having us. We're doing great. Happy to be here.
All right. So, I mean, I guess off the bat with the new record, most of it being out and a little bit more of it still to come out, to get it straight from you guys, like what exactly kind of drove this decision to section this record off into four parts and you know, release it kind of over time?
Do you want the long answer?
We're here for like an hour, so like, you know, go long, like, you know, to give us the full explanation.
Okay. All right. Do you want me to do it?
One pass, touchdown.
Spin kick. Just interrupt me if you're like, you're killing
me.
No,
go for it. Go for it. Go for the gold.
I'll just say one word: scale. Scale.
Like generally when we're starting to work on a record, we have like a bunch of little song starts, and this time we had, for whatever reason, a lot of them. And you know, we just kept working on it, building the songs. And at some point we had like 25 songs or something like that.
Or maybe more, we don't really.
Yeah, it was just a lot of songs. And we started to like think about how do we cut this down so it's a record. And when we did that, when we kind of found the 10 to 11 songs that, you know, were like the best songs, it didn't feel like the body of work anymore. It felt dead. It felt like it wasn't alive, and it felt like it was like missing a limb or something.
This is also after like 2 or more years of working on a record. It's not like 6 months go by, then you come up with the chapter idea. It's like years of your life and face to face with all these songs. Anyway, go ahead.
So at a certain point we realized like, okay, this is going to be like a double album. This is going to be 15 to 20 songs. And then we because we're kind of vinyl-y nerd people, we started thinking of it in terms of the sides, A, B, C, and D. And when we were looking at the songs and trying to choose which of the 25 were going to make it, we started to assign kind of beginnings and ends. And then that kind of birthed the chapter feeling. It was like, oh, each one can be like a little trip that has its own, you know, ties, that connects to itself and wraps itself in a bow at the end. And so it was kind of the double album concept helped us sequence it. The chapter thing was born from that. And then the idea to release it in those segments came last, kind of right at the end when we were finishing the record. We thought, oh, this might be cool. Like we can also get music out sooner. We don't have to wait till February, you know?
Also, it's every single decision that's being made over this period of time is based on like not limiting, you know, like fighting against feelings of like, you know, wanting to be open, not being limited, not shutting doors, opening doors, not being boring, being exciting, feeling full of life, like all of these very life-affirming decisions, and resisting that, you know, that urge. We even have people be like, yeah, it might be better if it was just like, you know, a lot shorter. And it's just almost like I kind of want to be like, give a middle finger and be like, no, not like it's not what's happening right now. And why would I do that? Why would we do that just to please something that might not even exist? So it seems like the more exciting, the more openness, the larger, the bigger scale, the fantasy, you know, that this is the time for that for us. And we've never been able to resist or deny what we feel, because it's a very strong thing for us. And that's how we've been working since we were much younger. So we just can't fight the feeling. And this is what we have. We have a double album.
It's definitely not wise to release a double album in the ADD era.
or whatever you want to call it. And we're not saying people have ADD, but no, it is like more of like, wow, that's a lot of songs. I mean, the amount of time we've heard that from various people, that's a lot of songs. It's almost like, yeah, but also people used to read books that were 500 pages or, you know, did you read War and Peace? Like, I'm not comparing it, but it's just a long.
Yeah, I think we realized that this was the art we were making and we had to be true to it. And it feels really great to us. And we completely know that not everyone can, spend 80 minutes with us, and
we also don't expect people to.
Yeah, we don't expect people to. It's just, but we wanted to make a world that was maximal and luxurious that people could get completely lost in. Because that's what we wanted to be, where we wanted to be.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, I actually like where this conversation is going. I mean, one thing I thought, kind of just looking at it from the outside, maybe because I have internet brain, was that maybe what influenced your guys' decision was just like the ability to digitally, we can release this in however many parts we want when we want. So, fuck it. Let's just try something new in terms of that progression. But it's interesting to hear that like there's actually more of an old school ethos behind it in terms of like the four sides of a record. I do classic reviews every once in a while. And I recently did a review of Jimi Hendrix's Electric Ladyland, and it served as a reminder of like each side of that record is its own thing. Its own like kind of miniature section and vibe and concept. And I'm sort of feeling that so far with the four sections of the four chapters of the three full chapters that I've heard of the record so far. Like, to kind of maybe give a quick description, what would you say thus far are kind of like the guiding aesthetics or vibes informing each chapter of the album?
Is our internet okay?
Yeah. Actually, the internet was very much not okay. Hi, I'm Anthony Fantano, the guy conducting this interview. It's at this point that Beach House and I spent several minutes working through a very bad, bit of internet not worky, very goody. It sort of derailed things for a very small section of the conversation. I will spare you that time and cut forward to a section of the interview where everything was back to normal. Thank you. How do you guys, I guess, like, how has your relationship with music consumption kind of evolved over the years, given like, we're not talking like the classic vinyl and CD formats that you guys broke on with the indie circuit in like the mid to late 2000s. As streaming has kind of like replaced all of that, has the way that you, I guess, like, release or conceptualize your music changed at all, knowing that it's going to be consumed in a vastly different way than it was when you originally started the duo?
As a music listener, I definitely embrace I embrace streaming. I enjoy discovering things all the time, and it being easy for me to look something up, whether it's on the big guys or the YouTubes or whatever you want to call it. So I embrace it greatly. But I think putting this record out in the way that we have is one way of looking at this is how we're embracing it as well as we move forward in the world, as we evolve as artists, and utilizing it to keep ourselves excited. I don't know. It's kind of that simple, I guess, for us. I don't know. I haven't thought about it that much.
Yeah, I don't think it's changed our approach at all. I think we will always think about music in terms of records, not necessarily because we expect people to listen on record, but just because we like thinking about this kind of closure to a period of time. And that's really what it feels like to us, is that a record is a segment of our artistic output, and it starts at a time and ends at a time. So quite literally, like a record.
A record of
that,
of life, and all of the crazy things that happened.
And Victoria was talking earlier about, I guess, this willingness to say yes and, I don't know, risk take or venture out in this current era. Is there anything else in terms of like attitude or ethos that you feel like is defining this era and this record as opposed to anything Beach House has done in the past?
I mean,
as you can tell, like I have when I hear questions, like the words, I must have some sort of disability because I just like can't process language. Yeah, can you answer that, or just can you start it so I can find my way?
Yeah, well, I just think that I mean, for us, that's another hard question. I think we just keep going deeper and deeper into whatever
whim
cave of creativity that we found ourselves in on planet Earth.
Quite literally cave.
Yeah.
Basically.
I think we're just plumbing. I think we're just trying to, I think every single time that we make something, I think this is true of all artists, maybe I think of all human beings, like every single time you make something, there's some kind of vainglorious hope that like, you're like, this is it. I'm going to say the thing perfectly this time. It's going to actually be the perfect mirror that someone looks at and can see what reality really is, or something like that.
Or like you sit down at a piano and you're like, I feel this complexity of emotions. Let me see what exists in that.
I'm going to name it perfectly this time. There's this kind of thing. And it's just, it feels like the longer we go, the further we dive and plumb into it.
Yeah. No, I mean, I feel that, I guess like I'll say as like a longtime listener, this record and 7 especially, to me have marked like 2 of your most experimental eras thus far. Like prior to these albums, to me, one of your catchiest and maybe most instrumentally diverse records was probably Teen Dream. And now it sort of seems like, you're really kind of diving into the unknown instrumentally and aesthetically on these latest 2 albums. And I wanted to know if you guys, felt the same way, or if there's a conscious drive to kind of like create that exact experience.
It's funny that you're bringing this up, because we definitely, I remember just one moment, and I can't lie, really lie. I can tell little white lies or little like fun lies, like, no, I'm not planning a surprise party for you. But like, I know we had this one moment in the last 3 years where, didn't we have a moment where we looked at each other and were like, do you feel a little bit like you felt a little bit like in 2010 or like 2009 or something? But it was just about like a glimmer of like before we put out Teen Dream, we felt very excited. We were like in this, and this is before we were signed to Sub Pop, before we really kind of like officially had a manager. Like, we were just like, there was just this certain time passage that was going on in our lives, and there was a vibration. It's just a vibration. And I know at one point we just looked at each other and it kind of felt like that. There was like this little vibration, and that's all I can say about that. Now, does that mean that I think that this record is like Teen Dream or something? I
wouldn't say they sound similar. But
I'm just talking about like, I'm not disagreeing with you about some kind of energetic flow that exists somehow, and whether that is in the music or whether that is totally wide open. But we had a moment as artists where we felt something like an echo.
We had a lot of fun. It was like a massive voyage of discovery, this entire record. We had a lot of fun, and then it was also really, really, really intense and brutal.
Yeah. But
we've been slowly building up our studio since 2016. So this is the full realization of our music making space, which we will continue to use for lots of things going forward, hopefully, like soundtracks or more albums or work for other people or whatever. So this is also the realization of like many, many years of accumulation of weird keyboards and development of skills regarding all of those things, and learning about, just following various whims. And we have a very particular relationship with instruments. Like sometimes we just will fall in love with a particular instrument, and there's usually 1 or 2 per record. And there were like 3 or 4 on this one. And it's like, we just kind of worship the sounds that they make and the way they feel and the kind of things that are particular to that instrument. And
well, they're like little wells that you go back to.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's songwriting is so so varied and so it's like a serpent. I love this word serpentine or serpent. A lot of creativity is like that kind of thing, you know, where you're like going this way and then you hit a wall and then you go this way. And it's not like it's sometimes it is just like you create something and it's immediately there. But I think most of the time it's like a road or a snake or something. And the instruments that we get into, like what he's talking about, are like these little oases or something where you might have a little clue about how to get to maybe this little magic object will have some answer. Maybe this magic object will help me discover like what the feeling of like the chorus is, you know, just so like little things like that. They're just these magic tools. It's pretty interesting because really a song starts with, you know, it's melody and chords somewhere, you know, and it's how they intermingle, what chemistry that they have, you know, and everybody that makes those things in the world has a different chemistry. And for whatever reason, whatever our sound is, I think is a result mostly of like our innate chemistry that we have, the two of us as people who make stuff together, you know, and it's like, this is our particular chemistry, and these instruments we fall in love with are like these little tools that give us little secret blessings.
I mean, obviously I'm not like privy to all of the really subtle details that, you know, go into, every single track instrumentally, but, you know, I'll throw out another kind of observation about the record, you know, considering the cool kind of conversation we lifted off my last comment. You know, it feels like I really vibe with what you're saying in terms of like falling in love with certain sounds or instrumental, you know, instruments or instrumental ideas, and kind of like orienting or orbiting things around that, because in a lot of ways, like, to me, this record sonically feels like so much of an adventure, because when I kind of rewind back to some of my favorite Beach House records over the years, you know, like Devotion being one of them, you know, one of the things about that record is like, it's the beauty that it has in simplicity and the consistency it has. Like, no matter which track, you know, which track's chorus or melody haunts me over the years from that, like going into each song, you know, I pretty much know what the basic elements aesthetically are going to be going into that track, you know, listening to it. But with this new record, you know, instrumentally, it seems like so many of these songs are almost you guys, still working with like some familiar elements or kind of like, you know, instrumental building ideas that you've sort of relied on over the years. But by that same token, it's like you're also building from scratch. Hey, this track's going to actually be more of an acoustic cut, and this next track deeper into the record is going to have more of a shoegaze vibe, and there's going to be a gigantic distorted crescendo that we pound into. And, you know, that's just like some really bold and wild versatility that I feel like you guys are diving into on this record. And it just kind of makes the album so far just like, again, really a sonic adventure.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah. I mean, I think that's just exactly what we want. We want people to feel like there's this giant universe that they can enter. I think that, like, sorry if I'm repeating myself, but I think that's just where we were at. We were entering this giant universe. So we're trying to carry it over, and hopefully people can go in if they want.
And where we are as people who make things, like, you know, everything that happens wouldn't happen had not all the things that occurred prior occurred, you know? So it's like, it is this wonderful natural thing that occurs where you just evolve, and then I don't know.
Well, I mean,
natural.
When developing, you know, a lot of these ideas on the record, like, how conscious are you guys, or do you feel that you have to be, you know, given that you've been a duo for almost 2 decades at this point, of like everything musically that you've done in the past? You know, it's like, how often do you find yourselves, maybe not on this record because of how many, you know, new exciting directions things go in, but, you know, at this point, do you ever find yourselves like, no, we've done that before, we've done this before, we've done this other thing, we've got to shake things up? Because the last thing I'll say is I remember recently going back to listen to what of the album has sort of been released so far on Apple Music, and the blurb on the record caught my eye, and it likened your consistency to like that of AC/DC's, which is like, AC/DC's sound is basically unchanged for longer than I've been alive. I don't know if I would make that comparison. I think that's kind of a bold one to make, but like, you know, is there kind of, with being such a beloved and long-running act, being such a beloved and long-running act, is there kind of this push and pull between we want to try something new, but simultaneously we have an audience that kind of almost has like expectations of us to sound a certain way or something?
I honestly feel like it's all awesome. Like, I don't, it's like, it's kind of rules in both directions. Like, if somebody says that, like, if you want to be like, oh, it's like AC/DC or something, I'm like, yeah, bring it on. Like, who else? Like, I don't, like, come on, let's think of some more names. Jimmy Buffett. Let's do it. Let's go. Steely Dan.
Rancid.
It doesn't matter. Like, I like that people's opinions exist. I find people fascinating, and I don't, what I'm saying? Like, we're not offended by that. It's like, okay. I don't know.
But to answer your question,
sorry, I never answer questions. I just go crazy.
We don't.
This is everyone's space to go crazy. Okay, just putting that out there.
We honestly don't think about it. I think we actively don't think about it. Like, we don't. I think we've, since the very beginning, any thinking about what people want from you or expect from you is going to be really bad for art. So, but I do think what happens in a very natural way is, like a lot of our organs and keyboards from the first couple records are still around in our studio, but we just don't go to them. And I think we don't go to them not because we don't want to sound like that, but because
we forget about them.
We've plumbed their depths for what inspires us, and there's nothing there anymore. So I think we just very naturally move from sounds and from instruments and from tempos and rhythms in a completely organic way, and it's not something we think about.
There's like some famous, not famous saying, and I don't know why I said it was famous or not famous, but super famous, not famous saying
famous
about
right
like
now.
How you need to, in order to do something, you have to be bored to get there or something, or like like nothingness. Like, the state of nothingness is kind of like a crucial part of like any creative path, right? And I've personally experienced in this band, and just as a non-band person, whatever that means, because I don't know if that's true. I don't think I exist outside. But so, like, it's a luxury to feel like really bored or nothingness. Like, it's because I've been periods of making music where I'm like, we're just going so fast. Like, in the past, like right before Bloom, I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. Like, there's just so much music happening. And I would just love to like not hear anything or do anything, because I'm just concerned that I'm not really hearing myself or something. And I don't know where I was going with this, but it had to do with like the part of where we are now is that we're kind of
boredom, or and
like the boredom, like it's a nice kind of boredom where you're like, you don't go to that keyboard, not intentionally, but you just kind of naturally got bored with it. Like, you grew out of it. Like, you don't wear those Velcro sneakers anymore because you're no longer 9 years old, and now you wear like big kid shoes with laces. Like, you don't need Velcro shoes anymore. You've been there, you've done that. So it's like it is kind of like that. And
even if you did go back to Velcro shoes, it wouldn't be in the same way again. It would be like almost like conscious and referential or something. So it'd still be different, So it's like, there's some natural way that things keep changing, and we've never been good at being aware of ourselves, in case you can't tell.
Like, I don't even know how to answer questions or listen.
So
no, I mean, I actually like that analogy a lot. I mean, continuing off of that, what else would you say, because you're talking about the versatility of, or I guess the access to all the different kinds of bells and whistles and instrumentation that you guys currently have in your studio, and the stuff that you're able to do conceptually with this new record, with it being released at the length that it is and the way that it's being put out. Like, what other perks would you say are coming along with Beach House being a big kid band now?
Big kids.
Tell us what it's like to be the big kids.
I think
definitely like having sleepovers with like no parents in the house.
That kicks ass.
I think that in a lot of ways,
and listening to AC/DC really loud.
Really fucking loud.
Just sorry, I'll stop being stupid.
No, I was going to say something stupid, so I'm glad you stupided first.
Okay, well now you can be stupid.
Okay. Wait, what was the question?
How we have become big kids.
become big kids, and what are the other benefits that have come along with, Beach House being as, I guess, experienced as a band, as a duo as it is right now?
The perks.
The benefits.
Making a double album.
Making a double album.
I think that
And
there's a lot of
possibly making more stuff that will be hopefully more continuing to go, like, I don't know whatever further means, but like we're just never ceasing to keep following our desire, because I think desire is really, really special.
Like, I think that there's, there are a lot of limitations of youth. There's something really beautiful about it, because you look back and you see how special your naivete was. It made you so unique. But I think that there are other things that that as the various layers of innocence and naivete shed away from you, and you accrue all of the hard, crusty scars and bark of becoming like
a deteriorating,
becoming an older person. There's this huge power too, if you can stay inspired. And I think we're good at staying inspired. So I feel like things are endless. Like, I think we were afraid of everything when we were younger.
Nervous, maybe. And
now, like we were afraid of, we probably would have never put strings on a record because we were afraid of what that meant. We're not afraid of anything like that anymore. We're not afraid of...
Or we might have felt like we didn't deserve to put strings on it or something. Like some kind of complicated self-consciousness or something, but who knows?
I feel like we could make an entire record of music box sounds now or something. It just feels like there's an endlessness that if we can stay on a certain focused feeling, a certain track of creativity and drive towards making something that could lead to really cool territories. Maybe not always albums in this traditional narrative way. I think we'd really love to do soundtracking and really love to do maybe producing, maybe other things. Who knows? But I think that we have a lot of musical energy that has accrued that we can use for things.
There's something about why is it so weirdly hard for any person to feel like they can just be themselves or something in the world? It's there's all these forces that kind of shake the foundations of each person that exists in the world. There's self-consciousness, self-awareness, the reflection of others, vanity, narcissism, what you look like. All of these things are these little obstacles or weapons against people's selves. And not just the internet self, me, or, the era of self-help or all that type of self. I'm talking about you, me, him, her. It's there's some kind of bravery, or maybe it's just risk taking to be yourself or something. It's just undeniable belief that that you love this thing so much that you make, and you really believe in it, and you're not scared that you love it so much, and you kind of almost protect it. I'm trying to make some connection about taking risks is a huge part. No matter what you sound like, how calm your music is, whatever, it doesn't matter. There's a risk in making something and putting it out in the world. And I think that our risk taking comes, I think, profoundly out of love. And I do believe that there's this love of living. There's this love of life. There's a love of nature. There's a love of strangers. There's a love of people. So it's well, it comes from ourselves. There's something, I don't know how to put a finger on it, but it's there's something innately, we're aware of some kind of energy field that is very pulsating, and it's all around us. And it's kind of been around us since we started this band. And it's very tied to our curiosity and our longing to just keep making stuff. So I don't know, it is scary to put music out, but I would highly encourage anybody that is questioning the importance or the value of what they do to just kind of for a second just put all that away and just be doesn't matter, just make it, because you deserve to make it. You're alive. It's your life. You're on Earth only once, unless you believe in reincarnation.
With that being said, there's a couple of things that I want to jump off, given what you've said. Much of indie wave that you guys kind of saw success in initially has, you know, kind of washed out. Obviously, you know, Beach House and a lot of other groups who have, you know, sort of like withstood it and made classic records are, you know, have survived and are here to stay. But, you know, as far as like the current landscape, a lot of the newer, younger artists that are out there right now, the newer acts that are getting reviewed or maybe making like landmark records at the moment, like are there any newer artists around at the moment who's, you know, grabbing your ears, grabbing your attention, who are kind of surprising you?
It's a great question. I think we've been like really up in our zone for a while now, and so we hear about little things, but we're like, I don't know what's the best way to like describe what the state we're in. We're really excited about Cullabo, who we're going to be touring with, and he's from Baltimore. So yeah, we find out about lots of little, you know, other people, bits and pieces, and I think a huge part of finding out about stuff too is like the traveling, is like the going, and also playing shows, it's and the interactions like, with people, you know, sitting at a bar and having a conversation. There's something about isolation that makes it a little bit more difficult.
And that's a little bit like the video store question too, where it's like as soon as you're put on the spot, a crazy paralysis takes hold, and you start to go like, am I alive? Do I know?
Do I even like things?
Do I know how to put shoes on? Like.
Well, I do know. I know how to put on Velcro shoes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, people ask me all, what's your favorite album? And I don't know what to say. I have no answer.
It's hard.
Yeah,
I get it. Well, I mean, you know.
But yes, there are like tons of people that like, as soon as we're done this, we're going to go,
yeah.
You could send me an email later. You know, not to like, in an artistic way date you guys or anything, but like, you know, do you ever feel at a point currently where, you know, Beach House's sound and sort of influence and aura has been around for so long that you occasionally will catch something that like, hey, that kind of sounds like something that we would do, or that sounds like something off of this older record that we've done?
I feel like people say things to us, like they'll be like, hey, this sounds like you, and then we'll listen to it and be like, what? Like it doesn't, you're saying like we don't like walk around and be like, this is, I don't think that is very much, I don't think that's part of either one of our personalities.
Also, I think this is like a nerdy distinction, but sometimes people go, hey, this band is ripping you guys off, and like, because we will listen to it, and then I'm
almost insulted,
and then we go like, no they're not, like, you mean because like same voice range,
there's a girl,
a guitar and a drum machine, like, and it doesn't sound anything like this. And I think that's just because you can use the exact same instrumentation and even the same chord progressions, and you're not going to make the same song. It won't be the same, and not even remotely similar. So
there's a girl, she has hair, it's brown, she opens her mouth.
She's ripping you off.
Beach House.
Got it.
And I'm like, thank you for making me feel like the world is still incredibly freaking sexist and also blind and like dumb. But that's cool. This will just live on the internet forever.
And hey, like, and also not smart enough to make a distinction between anything, so nobody could ever get tired of anything because everything just kind of sounds the same to everybody. You were talking and referring earlier to. Oh, yeah. Go on.
We don't really get angry or upset about any of that kind of stuff. It's more just kind of funny and random.
No, I hear you.
And also, like,
our outlook is kind of pretty. We're just always kind of blown away that we're still here, and also flattered. So we're not, that kind of mindset doesn't really happen much.
I just don't like really big assholes. That's all. Like people who are actually just mean, just no matter if you're an artist or what, it doesn't matter. It's like, I just don't understand like being just mean. Like, I don't get it. Like, I don't know. That's a whole separate conversation, but that's the only time you really see me get like riled up or like pissed off, is just like, I draw the line at like the way people treat each other. That is like, for me, a big no. Like, it's just hard for me. So everything else is just kind of fun and a game. But if I get mad or I feel, I just don't, you don't want to see that. You don't want to see that.
I see the fear in Alex's eyes. It seems like he's been witness to that a couple times.
Have you?
No, I think you have a righteous anger when it appears. It's generally very righteous.
Yeah.
Well, you were talking about sort of adding strings to, this record and Beach House's music in general earlier. And, I wanted to ask you a question about what I see is almost like the extravagance of this record. And there are moments where that takes on like a traditional tone, you know, like with strings, as you kind of say. And there are moments on the record where it's almost going in more of an abstract direction. We're talking about like, you know, layers of effects and noise and so on and so forth. Like, due to that increased extravagance on this new album, did that lead to a lot of tracks that maybe took more time than usual, or were maybe a little more difficult to nail down because, you know, you're kind of working through this series of either familiar tropes you're working off of or abstract ideas that you have a vision of, but you can't quite get to materialize in front of you? Like, was it difficult to kind of make some of these tracks come together and just like perfect them?
Yes. And in thinking about this question of yours, it also is answering a past question of yours in my brain that we weren't able to answer well. So a lot of these songs were completely crazy. There's a sound in the fourth verse of Superstar. It's like a little keyboard that goes like bum 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 bum. And we knew that we needed something there. We really wanted something there that did something like that. And we were working on that for 3 days. It took 3 days. But it is the most perfect sound, and we love it. It does the exact same thing, but it took 3 days to get there. And I think that is the difference between non-Velcro shoe beach house and Velcro shoe beach house, is that we
non-Velcro shoe. Oh yeah.
Because we
the big
in the past we never got there in the past. We hear the records and that's what makes them good too, is that innocence. We couldn't get there. We couldn't do the 3 days and get that perfect thing. And
advanced storytelling.
Yeah, and now we can. It hurts, but we can do it. Another one that comes to mind is the vocals for the song Finale, which is the first song of the fourth chapter. We recorded them like 5 times, and the way we finally got them, because we knew they needed this quality that we weren't getting. And the way we finally got them was singing into like a computer mic bent over.
I was hunched over for like hours.
Yeah, that's what needed to happen to get the right feeling from the vocals. And so like stuff like that is all over the record. And it was the hardest record we've ever made. It was completely insane and full of things like that. Just wild journeys to get to this place that we knew existed and that we could get to, but it took
a lot of pain.
Yeah. A lot of bad days.
A lot of really bad days.
Yeah, but then a lot of good days.
I wanted to ask you about what I see as of right now as somebody who's, you know, soon will be pushing 40, as almost like the intergenerational appeal of Beach House at this point. Because, you know, not only do I think you guys have the strength to sort of like hold on to a lot of the listeners that you gained in the mid and late 2000s and beyond, but like there's a whole generation of like, you know, indie centric Zoomer listeners who have really kind of taken with the sound of the duo as well. And, you know, I mean, have you, especially with the pandemic and everything, I'm sure that you'll go out on tour eventually. Like, you know, do you, or have you recently had any sort of like interactions with some of these younger fans and sort of like, you know, do you see them kind of taking to your music or getting something out of your music that maybe past, you know, maybe the more millennial generation didn't?
That's a beautiful question. I mean, I would like to say, yeah, sure. Like that's the luck and the draw of music, is that it plays with time in a way that like we as people can't play with time. Like we live day in and day out, and you're never the same. You just keep living until the day you die. Sorry to be, you know, realistic or whatever, but music has this thing where like it can be put out and then 5 years later or 6 years later continue to possibly find some relevance or, you know, snake its way into someone's heart, unbeknownst to the person who's made it. So there's like this magic to it. And I like to think that younger people that are like possibly half my age or even younger, if people are discovering us still, that is like an incredibly beautiful, very, very, very moving experience to have, but not to know directly, because it's like could be happening thousands of miles away in like a living room in like I don't know, I'm just going to pick a random Sri Lanka or, it's just like some place where like you may never go. I don't know, it's just this wonder. It is literally like a magic wind, like it is just, it is out of our control. And we kind of we really do bow down to this, like gift of a life that we've been given, like it's crazy. It's totally crazy. And so, yeah, we are like open armed. Anyone that wants to come into the beach house, we're so lucky to have them, like it's just a beautiful relationship.
Come on
into the beach house.
I'm so happy. And after all of these years, just like really feeling validated that the beach house is also just a figurative place, that it's not just an idea, it's not just a funny name, it's a place figuratively that we can all enter into.
Yeah.
Unless there's literally an address to a beach house that you want to drop online right here that we can all go to. I mean, COVID restrictions be damned.
If there was just some what is that amazing place in France where the water goes in and out? It's I can't believe I'm forgetting the name.
Michel.
Is it Mont Saint Michel? I think so. Where like you can walk to it and it's like it's a place. Well, I imagine in my heart, in my mind, that there's that place and that we're all going to meet there at like 5 a.m.
Maybe that could be
and watch the sunrise somewhere.
Maybe if we're still going in 20 years, that could be our final thing. We donate. We like buy a beach house and donate it to. It's like a free open place that anyone can go. No, that would be a terrible idea.
I don't know about that one. Too much of a commitment.
The real estate is a big commitment.
It could be like a part of the park service or something. It could be anyway.
Yeah, I mean it's a fun idea, but I like this play on words. Words are very powerful, but they're also wonderful to play with and imagine and wonder about. And the words beach house are for us was a place that we felt like we could exist inside of it as some kind of very abstract thing, right? Not there's the literal beach house, but we were just trying to figure out a place where like our world could exist. And sometimes I turn around and I'm just like, I can't believe our name is actually Beach House. I forget that there's this title, and I relate to it. Like I don't ever feel bad about, oh man, I wish our name wasn't Beach House. I wish it was something else. I'm not going to say what it is because I don't know what it is, but it is like having a name, like your parents name you, when your parents name you Beach House.
It is a lot like just being named Beach House, like your mom and dad named you Beach House. Yeah, it's a lot like that.
Beach House Johnson. But like, sorry, I can't believe I said that.
There may be a mega fan who's done that. Well, like their first name is Beach, their middle name is House, and their last name is Johnson or something like that.
But it's like, we're just like, we're just people like everybody else that just are trying to figure out where they exist in this giant freaking universe. And we, for whatever reason, are Forever Beach House, and we made our bed and now we're going to lie in it.
Got it. So someone in chat said Airbnb Beach House, which I have to give that person a shout out. I want to ask you guys really quickly before you head out, and thank you for your time, obviously. What do both of you say in terms of like the evolution of the creative dynamic between both of you over the years at this point, like knowing each other so well creatively and like what your process is and like how exactly you songwrite and where your ideas come from and like what you're drawn to instrumentally and aesthetically, like over the years, has that made the process easier in terms of, well, I mean, just in general, has it made it easier, harder?
I think one thing is for sure that when we first met in 2004 and started working together, the dynamic that was happening then is exactly the same as it is now. It hasn't changed or evolved in any way. I think we've both grown personally, but that dynamic, the thing that made it happen, the natural tendencies and the way they interact to work together was there from Saltwater when we wrote it.
First song ever.
First song that we wrote. and it still exists in that exact same way. So it was this kind of very fated, natural thing that we had. But I think maybe certain things have gotten harder and certain things have gotten easier. I don't know. So another good question and hard question for us, because we're not good at articulating those kind of things.
We try. But yeah, whatever our beings have together as like people that make stuff together, that little flicker between the two people, we still have that. But like Alex said, yeah, that the more you want from yourself, from the situation, from the other person, the more intense you're going to feel, like in the good moments and also in the moments of tension and resistance and challenge. Like songwriting can be very ugly, like in terms of, just the intensity and like, but it also is incredibly beautiful and euphoric and feels like you've worked something out. You don't know what it is, but it's like lifted out of you and you've described the like unfurling of a cherry blossom, or something like in your mind, or the feeling of nighttime and the wind and the cool air on your skin, like these are the things that like a person might search for tonally. And I think that's when we are really flying high with each other as dreamers, and the word dream, well, I love the German word Traum, which is like literally like trauma. I like the heavier, darker side of dream, where it's not just like my dreams, like I'm in a fairyland and like there's little sparkles everywhere. Like I love that too, but I also like really like the dark, crazy, like almost terrifying dream world, and we understand that in each other. And I think in order to get to some place, as the French say, not good or bad, but juste, which is neither right nor wrong, you can't be afraid to like go to some really dark places. And I think there's no one else I'd rather do that than with this person that's sitting next to me, in terms of like, I don't think there'll be ever someone else that I get to go to such a dark, crazy, but somehow I'd like to think beautiful place that we can get to sometimes. And I don't know, I feel like this record is yet another like proof of that. And sometimes I get very emotional thinking about it.
I have one kind of cheesy piece of emo advice for any, I imagine people watching this will be aspiring creative people, or a number of them will be aspiring creative people. I do think that very few people in the world can make compelling art by themselves. I know a lot of amazing musicians, they're incredible, but they don't, for whatever reason, it feels like they don't make anything compelling. And I don't think I would make anything compelling on my own. And I think that it's very important to find collaborators and find people that, in certain ways, fill in the creative gaps you have in yourself. So anybody out there looking to make things, who have that creative drive, I think should always consider collaborating and finding other people to work with.
Yeah, and don't beat yourself up if you're not like getting to some place on your own. It's incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
Like solo artists, I have a lot of respect because it's very challenging. It's very difficult. It can be like an incredibly lonely place. So yes, kudos to those that do it. And there are great people, but it is, for whatever reason, we love collaborating and love having the other person.
That's the power of bands.
Yeah.
That is like what a band is and why they're interesting.
Yeah.
Well, Beach House, Alex, Vic, I appreciate you guys coming on. I mean, at the time of us doing this stream, Once Twice Melody is mostly out, not entirely out just yet, but the rest of it will be coming out this Friday. Feel free to listen to that when it's out. Everything else that is currently released as of right now. And, are we looking forward to some tour dates soon, I imagine?
Friday, Pittsburgh.
Cool.
We're really, really excited. And thank you very much for having us. This was fun. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for coming on. I'm glad that you guys had a great time. I honestly, will say don't worry about any sort of comments that have happened during the interview about not being able to answer whatever questions or whatever, because honestly, out of all of these that I've done, this has been one of the more colorful and I think elucidating interviews that I've done. So
thank you. and also sorry about the internet stuff, but it kind of adds to the suspense, right?
Yeah, it made things spicy. Made everything spicier, I'd say.
Just and the internet's the T-Rex.
No, that's exactly the analogy. Yeah,
And you're Laura Dern, right? And
naturally,
I'm the Velociraptor, and
Am I
you're
Sam. What's his name?
Jeff
Sam.
Goldblum.
I'm Jeff.
I was going to say Jeff Goldblum. He's got to be Jeff Goldblum. Yeah.
That's fine.
That's so
I'm cool
funny.
with
I definitely want to be that Velociraptor.
All right. Well,
Oh, it's happening to me.
listen, everybody. The biggest kid band that I know, Beach House. Thank you guys for coming on. I appreciate it.
Is there any single thing that we didn't answer, like, or that somebody like wants? I just want to be like.
No. Everything's been great. I would say most of the. I'd say most of the stones have been turned. I mean, we could probably keep turning some stones. Maybe I don't know if you really want to. Are there any stones that you're really dying to flip over right now?
Where's Burlesque?
Come say hi at College Street Music House. How far is that from you?
It's in my area. I'll let you guys know sort of like how it'll depend on like what the COVID vibe is.
Right. Well,
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.